What if Ahsoka rescued Vader from Mustafar? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Mustafar burns. Lava flows like rivers of death across a world consumed by fire. Ahsoka Tano stands over a broken body on the volcanic shore. Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, her master, her brother, the monster who slaughtered younglings. Her lightsabers ignite with a snap hiss. White blades hum in the sulfuric air. One strike ends everything. One strike delivers justice. She raises her weapon above his burned and broken form. Her hand trembles. The blade wavers. She can't do it. She won't. This single choice changes the galaxy forever. Hours earlier, Ahsoka Tano sat in meditation aboard her small transport ship. The Twilight's Echo, she'd named it. A reminder of the person she used to be and the person she was trying to become. She'd been traveling the Outer Rim since leaving the Jedi Order, trying to find her place in a galaxy at war, trying to understand who Ahsoka Tano was without the title of Jedi before her name. The Clone Wars raged across every system, every planet, every moon. Republic against Separatist, brother against brother. And somewhere in the middle, Jedi leading clone armies into battles that seemed endless. Everything she'd once believed in felt twisted and wrong, corrupted by politics and compromises that had nothing to do with protecting people and everything to do with winning a war. She'd walked away from the Jedi Order rather than compromise who she was, rather than become something she didn't recognize. The trial had been the final straw, being accused of bombing the Jedi Temple, being expelled from the Order, nearly executed, all because the Council hadn't trusted her, hadn't believed in her. Anakin had saved her, proven her innocence. But the damage was done. When they'd offered to take her back, to reinstate her as if nothing had happened, she'd said no. How could she return to an order that had abandoned her so completely? How could she trust them again? But leaving hadn't brought the peace she'd hoped for. It had only brought questions. What was she now? Not a Jedi. The Order had made that clear. Not a soldier, though she'd been trained for war since childhood. Not a civilian, because the Force flowed through her, whether she wanted it to or not. Just Ahsoka. But what did that mean? Who was Ahsoka Tano when you stripped away the titles and the expectations? She'd been searching for that answer for months, traveling from world to world, helping people where she could, fighting injustice when she found it, but never staying long enough to form attachments, never settling anywhere long enough to call it home. The meditation should have helped, should have brought clarity. But her mind kept wandering, kept returning to memories of the war, of the battles she'd fought, the clones she'd served with. Rex, Fives, Echo, Jesse, good men who'd become brothers. And Anakin, her master, the man who'd taught her everything she knew about being a warrior, about trusting herself, about finding her own path. She missed him, missed their partnership, missed the way he'd always believed in her, even when she didn't believe in herself. But she couldn't go back, couldn't return to a war that felt more wrong with each passing day, couldn't watch the Jedi become something they'd sworn to stand against. Her meditation chamber was sparse, just a mat on the floor, a single candle burning, no decorations, no luxuries. Everything she owned fit in this small ship. And honestly, that felt right. Freeing, in a way. No attachments to weigh her down, no possessions to tie her to any one place. She could go anywhere, do anything, be anyone. The freedom was intoxicating and terrifying, because without the structure of the Order, without the guidance of the Council, she was truly alone, responsible only to herself. accountable only to her own conscience. It was what she'd wanted, but it was also more difficult than she'd imagined. Then it hit her, a scream through the Force unlike anything she'd ever felt. It tore through the galaxy like a wound ripping open, like reality itself was being torn in half. The meditation candle flickered, went out. The entire ship seemed to shudder, even though they were stationary in space. Ahsoka gasped, clutched her chest, felt like she was being stabbed, like a lightsaber was piercing her heart. Pain, not her own, someone else's, someone she knew. Betrayal that cut deeper than any blade, anguish that threatened to consume everything it touched. And darkness. An ocean of darkness rushing in to fill the void where light had been, consuming, drowning, destroying everything in its path. The scream had a voice, had a presence, one she'd recognize anywhere, across any distance, through any barrier. Anakin, her master, her brother, her friend. No, impossible. Anakin was one of the strongest Jedi alive, one of the most centered, most capable. What could possibly break him like this? What could tear him apart so completely that his pain echoed across the galaxy? Ahsoka's breath caught in her throat. Her meditation shattered like glass. She opened her eyes but saw nothing, saw only the Force, saw only that terrible darkness spreading, growing, feeding on itself. Something terrible had happened, something worse than death, worse than anything she could imagine. She felt it in every cell of her body, felt Anakin falling, not physically, spiritually. The darkness wrapping around him like chains, pulling him down into an abyss he might never climb out of. She felt him fighting it, resisting, but also surrendering, accepting it, embracing it. How was that possible? How could someone fight and surrender at the same time? But underneath that terrible darkness, buried so deep she almost missed it, she felt something else. A cry for help. A desperate plea that Anakin himself probably didn't even know he was sending. A part of him that was still fighting, still resisting, still hoping someone would save him from himself. Ahsoka didn't waste time analyzing, didn't stop to wonder if she should get involved. Her body moved on instinct. She bolted from the meditation chamber to the cockpit. Her hands flew across the controls, activating systems, powering up the engines. Her Navy computer hummed to life. She needed coordinates, needed to know where that scream had come from, where Anakin was. Her fingers danced across the sensors, trying to trace the source of that Force disturbance. The readings were chaotic, all over the place. The Force disruption had been so massive, it had affected the fabric of space itself, created ripples across multiple systems. But there, at the center, a single point of origin. She locked onto it, traced it back through the Force, through the pain, through the darkness. Ahsoka didn't hesitate. She ran to the cockpit and punched in new coordinates. Her Navi computer worked frantically, trying to trace the source of that Force disturbance. The readings were chaotic, unfocused, but they pointed to a single system. Mustafar, a separatist stronghold in the Outer Rim, a world of lava and ash. What was Anakin doing there? The answer came to her as she jumped to hyperspace. The war was ending. The Jedi had discovered the location of the separatist leaders. Anakin must have been sent there. But something had gone wrong. Terribly, horrifically wrong. The journey to Mustafar took 6 hours. 6 hours where Ahsoka felt the echo of that scream reverberating through the Force. 6 hours where she tried to reach out to Anakin and found only darkness. 6 hours where she prepared herself for what she might find. She checked her weapons, sharpened her lightsabers, ran through combat forms. Anything to keep her hands busy. anything to stop thinking about what that darkness meant. But the thoughts came anyway. Anakin had changed during the war. She'd seen it. The weight on his shoulders growing heavier. The frustration with the Jedi Council. The anger that surfaced more and more often. But this felt like something had broken inside him completely. As her ship dropped out of hyperspace above Mustafar, the first thing she saw was the destruction. Separatist ships hung dead in orbit. Some were torn apart. Others simply drifted, powered down and lifeless. The battle was over. But the aftermath looked like a massacre. She scanned for life signs and found almost nothing. Whatever had happened here, it had been brutal and swift. She angled her ship toward the surface, following the pull of the Force, following that broken, anguished presence that felt like Anakin, but also nothing like him. The volcanic atmosphere buffeted her ship as she descended. Heat warnings flashed across her console. The hull temperature climbed dangerously high, but Ahsoka pushed through, guiding her transport lower. The surface of Mustafar was exactly as terrible as she'd imagined. Rivers of lava carved through black rock. Volcanic ash choked the air. Machinery from the Separatist facilities dotted the landscape, most of it damaged or destroyed. And there, on a collection platform extending over a lava river, she saw them. Two figures dueling. Even from a distance, she recognized their fighting styles. Obi-Wan Kenobi moved with perfect Soresu technique, every movement economical, every defense absolute. His blue lightsaber traced a barrier between him and his opponent. And that opponent moved with gem-so fury. Powerful overhead strikes, aggressive advances, raw physical strength behind every blow. But the movements were wilder than she remembered, more vicious, more filled with hate. That was Anakin, fighting his own master, fighting Obi-Wan. Ahsoka's mind struggled to process what she was seeing. Why were they fighting? What had happened? She wanted to land immediately, to stop this. But something held her back. Some instinct that told her this confrontation was beyond her ability to influence. She watched as the duel intensified, watched as Anakin drove Obi-Wan back with sheer ferocity. Every strike was filled with power, with rage, with a darkness she'd never seen in him before. His movements were still technically brilliant, still showed all the training and skill she remembered. But there was something different, something wrong. He wasn't fighting to disarm. He was fighting to kill, to destroy. Every blow was meant to be lethal, no holding back, no mercy, no hesitation. This wasn't a Jedi fighting. This was something else, something darker. Obi-Wan moved with Soresu perfection. His defense was absolute, impenetrable. Every one of Anakin's strikes met his blue blade. Every attack was deflected, redirected, turned aside. He wasn't attacking, wasn't countering, just defending, weathering the storm, letting Anakin exhaust himself, burn himself out on the strength of Obi-Wan's defense. It was textbook Soresu, the form of ultimate defense. But Ahsoka could see it was costing him. Each of Anakin's blows carried immense power. Cybernetically enhanced strength combined with Force-amplified aggression. Even Obi-Wan's perfect defense was being battered, driven back step by step. The collection platform shuddered under their duel. Metal groaned, struts buckled. The heat from the lava river below made the air shimmer, made everything look like a fever dream, a nightmare brought to life. Anakin's strikes came faster, harder, more desperate. He was trying to overwhelm Obi-Wan through sheer aggression, trying to break through that perfect defense by hitting it again and again and again until something gave. But Obi-Wan held. His face was calm, centered, even though Ahsoka could see the grief there, the pain, the heartbreak of fighting his former apprentice, his brother in all but blood. Then the duel shifted. Obi-Wan's defense gave way to counteroffensive. Subtle at first, a riposte here, a quick strike there, testing Anakin's defense, finding openings, and finding them he did. Anakin's offense was powerful but reckless. Left gaps, created opportunities. Obi-Wan exploited them. His blue blade flashed, struck at Anakin's knees, his arms, his head, driving him back now, forcing him to defend. The tide was turning. Ahsoka could see it. Anakin was losing. His rage was consuming him, making him sloppy, predictable, and Obi-Wan was capitalizing on every mistake. The two masters fought across the platform. Their lightsabers clashed again and again. Blue against blue. Light against light. But the darkness radiating from Anakin made it feel like something else. Made it feel like light fighting against shadow. The platform beneath them finally gave way. Buckled completely. They leapt to safety. Landed on floating repulsor droids hovering above the lava river. The droids weren't meant for combat, were industrial equipment, but they used them anyway. Fought while the droids drifted dangerously close to the molten rock below. One wrong move, one missed step, and they'd fall into the lava. Anakin leapt from droid to droid, attacking relentlessly. His yellow eyes blazed with Sith fury. When had they turned yellow? When had he fallen so far that even his eyes showed the corruption? Obi-Wan followed, matching him leap for leap, strike for strike. Their duel took them across the entire lava river, across dozens of droids. Some of the droids short-circuited from the heat, plunged into the lava, melted instantly. But the duelists barely noticed. They were locked in their own world. Master and apprentice, fighting for everything, fighting to the death. Then they reached the shore. Obi-Wan leaped to the volcanic sand, landed in a ready stance. Anakin tried to follow, leaped from the last droid, but Obi-Wan was ready, had been waiting for this exact moment. His lightsaber came up, not to block, to strike. The blade moved in 3 perfect arcs, each one precise, each one devastating, each one cutting through limbs like they were made of paper. Anakin's legs were severed at mid-thigh, both of them, gone in an instant. His left arm fell away, cut clean through just below the shoulder. He collapsed onto the volcanic sand, screaming. The sound was inhuman, pure agony, physical and spiritual, the pain of losing limbs and losing himself at the same time. Ahsoka felt tears streaming down her face, felt her chest constrict, felt like she couldn't breathe. What she was witnessing was beyond horror, beyond tragedy. This was the destruction of everything she'd believed in, everything she'd trusted. Anakin, the man who'd taught her to be strong, was broken and burning on the shores of hell. And Obi-Wan, the perfect Jedi, had just crippled his own apprentice, his own brother. There were no winners here. Only loss, only pain, only the ashes of what used to be. She watched as Obi-Wan stood over Anakin's broken body, watched as he retrieved Anakin's lightsaber from the ground where it had fallen. And then Obi-Wan spoke. She was too far away to hear the words, but she didn't need to. She felt them through the Force, felt the grief, the betrayal, the love that had turned to ashes. Obi-Wan turned and walked away. He disappeared into the smoke and ash, leaving Anakin to die on the shores of that lava river. Ahsoka couldn't believe it. Obi-Wan had just left him there, left him to burn. Whatever Anakin had done, whatever terrible choices he'd made, this seemed too cruel, too final. She landed her ship the moment Obi-Wan was out of sight. The ramp lowered and volcanic heat hit her like a physical blow. The air was toxic, sulfuric. Every breath burned, but she ran anyway. ran across the black sand toward that broken figure, ran toward Anakin. She found him at the edge of the lava river. The heat was unbearable even from several meters away. The air itself seemed to burn. Every breath was like inhaling fire. The sulfuric smell was overwhelming, choking. She covered her mouth and nose with her hand, but it didn't help much. This was hell, literally, a world of fire and death, and Anakin was lying at its edge, dying. His body was a ruin, his legs were gone, both of them, severed mid-thigh by Obi-Wan's precise strikes. The stumps were burned, cauterized by the lightsaber, but the heat from the lava was cooking them further, making the wounds worse. His left arm was missing, cut off just below the shoulder. Only his right arm remained, and even that was badly burned. The skin was blackened, blistered, peeling away in places to reveal raw flesh beneath. His Jedi robes were charred, parts of them had burned away completely. What remained clung to his burned skin, fused with it in some places. His face was the worst. The left side was burned so badly she could barely recognize him. The skin was gone, melted away. She could see muscle, bone. His left eye was swollen shut, maybe destroyed completely. She couldn't tell, but his right eye was open, staring up at the sky, and that eye was yellow, pure Sith yellow. The corruption was complete, or nearly complete, because as that eye focused on her, something flickered. A moment where the yellow faded, where blue tried to push through, where Anakin tried to surface from under Vader. When he saw her, his expression did something complicated. Horror flashed across his burned face, then shame, then anguish. He tried to speak, his lips moved, but the sound that came out was barely human. A croak, a whisper. His vocal cords were damaged, maybe from screaming, maybe from the toxic air. "No, leave me. Ahsoka." The words were so quiet she almost missed them. So broken she almost didn't recognize his voice. "You shouldn't be here, shouldn't see me like this." Every word seemed to cost him. She could see his chest rising and falling rapidly. Shallow breaths. He was going into shock, dying right in front of her. She needed to act fast, but first, she needed to understand, needed to know what had driven him to this, what had broken him so completely. Ahsoka dropped to her knees beside him. The ground was scorching hot. She could feel it through her boots, through her clothes. But she ignored the discomfort, focused on Anakin, on the broken man before her. She wanted to touch him, to offer comfort, but his skin was so badly burned that any touch would cause more pain. So she just knelt there, close enough that he could see her clearly, close enough that he'd know she was really there. "What happened?" she asked. Her voice was steady, despite the tears streaming down her face. "What did you do?" Anakin's eye closed. More tears leaked out, mixed with the ash on his face, created dark streaks. "I don't even know where to start, how to explain. It's all so tangled, so twisted, so wrong. Start with the truth. Whatever it is, just tell me." Anakin's remaining hand clenched into a fist, unclenched, clenched again. The motion seemed to help him focus, to gather his thoughts. "I had visions, nightmares. Padme was dying, in childbirth. I saw it every night, saw her screaming, saw the life leaving her eyes, saw our children dying with her, and I was powerless, couldn't save her, couldn't do anything, just watch her die." His voice broke. The fear consumed me. I couldn't lose her, not after losing my mother, not after everything. Palpatine said he could help, said the dark side could save her. And I believed him. I was so desperate, so afraid, so stupid. Palpatine. Ahsoka's blood ran cold, the Supreme Chancellor, the leader of the Republic. "What did he do to you?" He's a Sith Lord, has been all along, playing both sides, orchestrating everything, the war, the conflict, all of it. He revealed himself to me, offered me power, the power to save Padme. And I took it, accepted him as my master, became his apprentice. The words hung in the air like poison. Ahsoka felt like she'd been punched, felt the air leave her lungs. Anakin had joined the Sith, had betrayed the Jedi, had fallen to the dark side. The man she'd trusted more than anyone had become the enemy. But even as that realization hit her, she forced herself to keep listening, to understand the full picture before judging. The Jedi tried to arrest him. Anakin continued. His voice was growing weaker. Mace Windu took a team to confront Palpatine. And I stopped them, helped Palpatine kill them. Master Windu died because of me. Then Palpatine sent me to the temple, said the Jedi were traitors, that they'd tried to overthrow the Republic, that they needed to be eliminated. And I went, walked into the temple with the 501st. And I killed them. His voice dissolved into sobs. Killed my brothers, my friends, my family. The younglings looked at me with trusting eyes, called me Master Skywalker, asked me to protect them, and I cut them down. All of them. Every single one. The confession hung between them. Every word was a knife, cutting deeper than any blade could. Ahsoka felt sick, felt like she was going to vomit. Younglings. He'd murdered children, babies who trusted him, who believed in him. How could he? How could anyone? But even as revulsion swept through her, she forced herself to stay, forced herself to listen to the rest, because she needed the full truth, needed to understand the complete picture before she decided what to do. What about Padme? You said she was dying. Did you save her? Anakin's face crumbled completely. That was the worst part, the final twist of the knife. No. She came to Mustafar, tried to stop me, begged me to leave with her, to abandon everything. And I thought Obi-Wan had turned her against me. I saw him on her ship, thought she'd brought him to kill me. So I used the Force, choked her, tried to make her stop. But I couldn't control it. The darkness made everything worse, made me strike harder than I meant to. And she collapsed. Obi-Wan said she's dead, that I killed her, killed our children, destroyed everything I was trying to save. Ahsoka sat in silence, processing, trying to understand. The magnitude of what had happened was beyond comprehension. Anakin had been manipulated by Palpatine, driven by fear for Padme, and in trying to save her, he'd destroyed her, destroyed himself, destroyed everything. It was a tragedy of Greek proportions, a fall so complete, so total, that it seemed almost impossible. And yet here he was, broken and burning, living proof that it had happened, that the chosen one had fallen. The question now was what came next, what she did with this knowledge, with this broken man before her. But then she looked at his face and saw something else, saw the anguish, the guilt, the self-hatred that poured off him in waves. This wasn't a monster. This was a man who'd done monstrous things and was now drowning in the consequences. She made a choice. Right there on the burning shores of Mustafar, she could let him die. She could walk away like Obi-Wan had. Justice would be served. The man who killed younglings would burn. But as she looked at Anakin, she didn't see Darth Vader. She saw her master, her brother, the man who'd taught her everything she knew, the man who'd protected her on 100 battlefields, the man who'd believed in her even when no one else did. Ahsoka ignited her lightsabers. The white blades cast light across Anakin's broken form. He closed his eyes, accepting death. But she didn't strike him down. Instead, she used her lightsabers to hold back the encroaching lava, The molten rock flowed toward them, drawn by the heat and the slope of the land. Her blades created a barrier of superheated air that deflected the lava's path. It bought them time. Not much, maybe a minute, but enough. I'm not leaving you, Sky Guy. Not like this. You hear me? I'm not leaving you. Anakin's eyes opened. They flickered between yellow and blue. Sith and Jedi. Darkness and light. Why? After what I did, why would you save me? Because you're my brother. Because I've seen the man you can be. And because whatever darkness you've fallen into, I won't let it take you completely. The answer seemed to break something inside him. Tears mixed with ash on his burned face. Please, just let me die. I deserve it. Maybe you do, but I'm not giving you that mercy. You're going to live. You're going to face what you did, and you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to make it right. Ahsoka reached out with the Force. She'd never attempted a Force pull this complex, never tried to lift something as awkward and broken as Anakin's body. But she had no choice. She focused, drew on the Force, and lifted him. Anakin screamed. The sound was inhuman, pure agony as his shattered body left the ground. Ahsoka's concentration wavered but held. She moved backward, pulling him with her, away from the lava, away from the heat, toward her ship. Every meter felt like a kilometer. Every second stretched into eternity. Anakin's screams echoed across the volcanic landscape. But she didn't stop, didn't let go. She pulled him across the black sand, up her ship's ramp, and into the medical bay. Only then did she release the Force pull and let him collapse onto the medical table. The ship's automated systems activated immediately. Scanners swept across Anakin's body. Vital sign monitors beeped frantically. The damage assessment scrolled across the screen, and Ahsoka's blood ran cold. Catastrophic burns across 70% of his body. 3 limbs amputated. Internal injuries, severe trauma, blood loss. The computer recommended immediate Bacta immersion and cybernetic replacement. But more than that, it recommended stabilization at a full medical facility. The ship's automated medical bay wasn't equipped for injuries this severe. Ahsoka moved to the cockpit and fired up the engines. Where could she take him? Not a Republic facility. If the Jedi discovered what he'd done, they'd execute him. Not a separatist base. They'd either kill him or try to use him. She needed somewhere off the grid. Somewhere with advanced medical technology, but no official oversight. As she lifted off from Mustafar, her comm system lit up with warnings. Imperial signatures, dozens of them dropping out of hyperspace. She didn't know what Imperial meant. The Republic didn't have an Imperium. But the ships entering the system were massive. Star destroyers, cruisers, and they were moving with purpose, searching for something, searching for Anakin. Whoever sent these ships wanted Palpatine's apprentice back. The realization hit her. Palpatine, the Supreme Chancellor. He was behind this, behind Anakin's fall, behind everything. Ahsoka didn't have time to process the implications. TIE fighters launched from the Star Destroyers. She'd never seen that design before. Angular, aggressive. Their solar panels gleamed as they streaked toward her. She pushed her ship's engines to maximum. The fighters closed in fast. Their green laser fire splashed against her shields. Ahsoka returned fire. Her targeting systems locked onto the nearest TIE. She fired. The fighter exploded in a ball of flame, but 3 more took its place. She wove through their fire, using every evasive maneuver she knew. Rolling, diving, spinning. The TIE fighters matched her move for move. One got on her tail. Laser fire stitched across her aft shields. Warning alarms screamed. Ahsoka pulled a hard turn that would have torn apart a lesser pilot. The G-forces pushed her back into her seat, but the maneuver worked. The TIE overshot, and she locked onto it. Another explosion, another fighter down, but the Star Destroyers were moving to cut off her escape. Turbo laser fire filled the space around her. The shots were too big to evade, too numerous. One blast clipped her port side. Shields collapsed. Hull plating buckled. Her ship shuddered and alarms multiplied. She couldn't take much more of this. The Navy computer was still calculating hyperspace coordinates, still searching for a route that wouldn't take them into a star or an asteroid field. In the medical bay, Anakin's vital signs were failing. The trauma was too much. He was dying. Ahsoka felt it through the Force, felt him slipping away. No, not after everything. Not after pulling him from that lava river. She pushed her ship harder, flew through a debris field from destroyed Separatist vessels. The TIE fighters followed, but the wreckage slowed them. She used the cover to gain distance. The Navy computer chimed, coordinates locked, any coordinates, anywhere but here. She angled away from Mustafar, away from the Imperial fleet. One TIE fighter stayed on her tail. Its lasers hammered her shields relentlessly. The shield generator whined, overheated, started to fail. She was out of time. Ahsoka pulled the hyperspace lever. For one terrible second, nothing happened. Then the stars stretched, space twisted, and Mustafar disappeared behind them, replaced by the swirling blue tunnel of hyperspace. She'd made it. Barely. Her ship limped through hyperspace at reduced speed. Multiple systems were damaged. Life support was at 60%. Shields would need hours to regenerate, but they were alive. She set course for the only place she could think of, a planet called Akiva in the unknown regions. During the Clone Wars, she'd helped liberate it from Separatist control. The people there owed her a debt. More importantly, there was a medical outpost on Akiva, small, independent, and run by someone who wouldn't ask questions. The journey took 6 hours. 6 hours where Ahsoka sat beside Anakin in the medical bay, watching his chest rise and fall in labored breaths. The ship's automated systems did what they could. Bacta injections to prevent infection, burn wraps to protect what remained of his skin, sedatives to keep him unconscious. But it wasn't enough. His vital signs continued to decline. His heart rate was irregular, his breathing shallow. She held his remaining hand, the one part of him that wasn't burned or severed. It was still warm, still alive. She reached out through the Force, trying to connect with him. What she found terrified her. Darkness, an ocean of it, deep and churning and violent. It pulled at her, tried to drag her down with him. But underneath that darkness, buried so deep she almost missed it, a tiny spark of light fought to survive. That spark felt like the Anakin she knew, the master who'd taught her to trust herself, the friend who'd made her laugh during the darkest days of the war, the brother who'd protected her when everyone else saw her as expendable. That spark was drowning, but it hadn't gone out. Not yet. Ahsoka poured her own light into the darkness. She couldn't save him physically. That required medical expertise beyond her training. But she could save that spark, could feed it, keep it alive, give it strength to fight. The Force connection between them had always been strong, master and apprentice. But now it felt different, more equal. She wasn't pulling him back to the light. She was offering him a lifeline, a choice. He could grab it or let go. For hours, she held that connection, held that spark, refused to let it die. And slowly, gradually, she felt something shift. The darkness was still there, still overwhelming. But the spark grew brighter, fought harder, began to resist instead of just survive. When Ahsoka finally pulled back from the Force connection, she was exhausted. But Anakin's vital signs had stabilized. His heart rate was stronger, his breathing deeper. He was going to make it. At least long enough to reach Akiva. The planet appeared on her sensors like a blessing. Green and blue from orbit, covered in forests and oceans. A stark contrast to the volcanic hell of Mustafar. She transmitted her old Republic authorization codes and requested emergency landing clearance at the medical outpost. There was a long pause. Then a response came through. Female voice. Kaminoan accent. Ahsoka Tano. I wondered if I would see you again. Come down. Bay 3 is open. The voice belonged to Niru Se, a Kaminoan doctor who'd worked on Kamino during the early Clone Wars. Ahsoka had helped her escape when Niru had questioned the ethics of creating a clone army. The doctor had disappeared into the unknown regions and established this outpost, a place where she could practice medicine without political oversight. Ahsoka brought her damaged ship down through Akiva's atmosphere. The medical outpost was built into a mountain range. Small, isolated, perfect for staying hidden. She landed in Bay 3 and immediately opened the medical bay doors. Niru Se was waiting with a medical team, 2 medical droids and 3 Twi'lek nurses. They moved with practiced efficiency, loading Anakin onto a repulsor stretcher. Niru's large eyes studied Anakin's injuries. Her expression remained neutral. But as they moved past Ahsoka, the Kaminoan doctor paused. This one has committed terrible acts. I can feel it in the Force. Yes, Ahsoka said quietly. But he's also the victim of terrible manipulation. Can you save him? Perhaps. But you must ask yourself if you should. The question haunted Ahsoka as she watched them take Anakin into the surgical suite. Should she save him? Did he deserve to be saved? She'd pulled him from Mustafar on instinct, on the bond they shared. But now, standing in the quiet medical facility, doubt crept in. He'd killed younglings, children who trusted the Jedi, who trusted him. How many? 10, 20? She didn't know. But each one was a life that could never be replaced, a future that would never exist. And he'd done it willingly, chosen darkness over light, chosen power over compassion. What right did she have to save him? But then she thought about the darkness she'd felt, the manipulation. Anakin had been afraid, desperate, and someone had used that fear, used that desperation, twisted it into something terrible. That didn't excuse what he'd done. Nothing could excuse that. But it complicated the simple narrative of monster and victim. Ahsoka found a quiet room in the medical facility, a small space with a window overlooking the mountains. She sat on the floor and tried to meditate, tried to find peace. But her mind kept returning to one moment. Anakin's eyes flickering between yellow and blue, Sith and Jedi, darkness and light. He was still fighting, still resisting. And if he was still fighting, maybe there was hope. Maybe saving him wasn't about forgiveness. Maybe it was about giving him a chance to do better, to choose better, to be better. 3 days passed. 3 days where Anakin remained in critical condition. The surgical team worked around the clock. They grafted synthetic skin to replace what had been burned. They installed temporary cybernetic limbs where his legs and arm had been. They treated his internal injuries and kept him in a medically induced coma to allow his body to heal. Ahsoka stayed in the medical facility. She couldn't leave, couldn't abandon him. But she also couldn't stop thinking about what came next. If he survived, what then? Where would they go? What would they do? The Republic had fallen. She'd heard the transmissions. The Empire had risen in its place. The Jedi were declared traitors. Order 66 had turned the clone army against their generals. On the fourth day, she received a coded transmission. It was from Bail Organa, the senator from Alderaan, one of the few people in the Senate she trusted. His message was brief, but devastating. Ahsoka, if you're receiving this, you're one of the lucky ones. The Republic is gone. The Jedi are scattered. Most are dead. Palpatine has declared himself Emperor, and his first act was to execute Order 66. The clones turned on us. I barely escaped with my life. If you're in hiding, stay there. The Empire is hunting any Force sensitives. And there's something else. The Emperor is looking for someone. His apprentice, Darth Vader, last seen on Mustafar. If you know anything, be careful. Palpatine wants him back. Badly. The transmission ended. Ahsoka stared at the blank screen. Darth Vader. That was the name Anakin had taken. The name of the monster he'd become. And Palpatine was searching for him. She'd endangered everyone here by bringing him to Akiva. If the Emperor found this facility, everyone would die. She needed to move Anakin, but to where? Nowhere in the known galaxy was safe. The Empire's reach was already extending across every system. She needed somewhere even Palpatine couldn't find, somewhere forgotten, somewhere hidden. Before she could formulate a plan, Niru Se entered the room. The Kaminoan's expression was as unreadable as ever. He is waking up. Are you prepared for what comes next? No, Ahsoka admitted, but I'll face it anyway. She followed Niru to the medical wing. The surgical suite had been converted into a recovery room. Medical monitors lined the walls, displaying Anakin's vital signs. And there, in a large Bacta tank in the center of the room, Anakin floated. His eyes were open, aware. His new cybernetic legs gleamed in the blue-green light of the Bacta. His new left arm was fully mechanical, but his face, though still covered in healing scars, showed recognition when he saw her. The Bacta tank drained slowly. Fluid swirled away through floor grates. Anakin stumbled forward as his feet touched the ground. His new legs caught him, servo motors whirring. His mechanical hand flexed experimentally. The fingers opened and closed with perfect precision. He looked at Ahsoka for a long moment. His eyes were blue now. No trace of Sith yellow, but the expression in them was hollow, broken. When he spoke, his voice was rough from disuse. Why? Why did you save me? Because you're my brother. Because I couldn't let you die like that. The answer seemed to hurt him more than comfort him. His face twisted with anguish. You should have. Do you know what I've done? I know, and you saved me anyway. The words were an accusation, a condemnation. I saved Anakin Skywalker, not Darth Vader. There is no Anakin anymore. That name means nothing. He unleashed a wave of Force energy, not intentionally, but born from the emotion roiling inside him. The wave threw Ahsoka back. She hit the wall hard. Her lightsabers flew to her hands on instinct, but she didn't ignite them. She just stood there, looked at him. Is that what Palpatine told you? That Anakin died on Mustafar? You're letting him win. Anakin's remaining organic hand trembled. The darkness around him pulsed, visible in the Force like a living thing. For a moment, Ahsoka thought he might attack, thought she'd have to fight him here and now. But then he slumped against the wall. His new legs buckled. He slid down until he was sitting on the floor, his face buried in his hands. I killed them, Ahsoka. The younglings. I walked into the temple and I cut them down. I can still see their faces, see the fear, the confusion. They didn't understand why I was doing it. Some of them called me Master Skywalker, called out for help. And I killed them anyway. His voice broke. One was barely 6 years old. She tried to hide behind a desk. I found her. I ignited my lightsaber. And she looked at me with these big eyes, trusting eyes. She thought I was there to protect her, and I killed her. The confession hung in the air like poison. Ahsoka felt bile rise in her throat. She wanted to run, wanted to ignite her lightsabers and end this monster right now, but she forced herself to stay, forced herself to listen. Anakin continued, his voice barely a whisper. Padme found out what I'd done. She came to Mustafar to stop me, begged me to come away with her, to leave it all behind. And I thought she'd brought Obi-Wan to kill me. I choked her, used the Force to crush her throat. She was pregnant, carrying our children, and I tried to kill her. His hands clenched into fists. Obi-Wan stopped me. We fought, and he left me to burn, left me to die. And he was right to do it. I'm a monster. The Anakin you knew is dead. He killed himself the moment he knelt before Sidious, the moment he accepted the name Darth Vader. Ahsoka approached slowly. Every instinct screamed at her to maintain distance, but she knelt beside him anyway. Close enough to touch, close enough to see the tears streaming down his scarred face. You're right. You did terrible things. Unforgivable things. Anakin looked up at her. His eyes were haunted. Then, why save me? Why not let me burn? Because you're still here, still breathing, still fighting. I can feel it. The darkness hasn't consumed you completely. You could have given in completely on Mustafar. Let yourself die. But you didn't. Some part of you wants to survive. Wants to do better. That's the part I'm saving. Not the monster, not Vader, but the man who's still in there somewhere, fighting to come back. What do you want from me? Anakin asked. His voice was hollow. What could I possibly give you after what I've done? I want you to face it. Face what you did. Don't run from it. Don't hide behind the darkness or behind the name Vader. Own it. Accept the weight of it, and then use that weight to drive you forward, to be better, to save the people Vader would have killed. You think I can be redeemed? The laugh that escaped him was bitter. That I can just walk back into the light and everything will be forgiven. No, Ahsoka said firmly. I think you're broken. I think you'll carry this guilt for the rest of your life, and you should. What you did can never be undone. Those children can never come back. But you're alive. And as long as you're alive, you have a choice. You can let this guilt destroy you, or you can use it to do better, to save others. It won't redeem you, but it might give your life meaning. Anakin was silent for a long time. He stared at his mechanical hand, opened and closed the fingers. The servo motors whirred softly in the quiet room. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, still broken, still hollow, but with a thread of something else. Determination. It's too late for redemption. I know that. The things I've done can never be forgiven, but maybe it's not too late for atonement. Maybe I can spend whatever time I have left trying to balance the scales. It won't be enough. It'll never be enough. But it's all I have. Ahsoka nodded. Then that's where we start. The weeks that followed were difficult. Anakin remained at the medical facility as his body healed. The synthetic skin grafts took time to fully integrate. His cybernetic limbs needed calibration. And beyond the physical healing, the psychological wounds went even deeper. Ahsoka stayed with him, but she kept her guard up. The darkness in him was still strong. Sometimes she'd wake in the middle of the night and find him standing at the window, staring out at the mountains, his fist clenched, his jaw tight. The temptation to give in was always there, to embrace Vader fully, to let the darkness consume the pain and guilt. It would be easier. The light demanded that he feel everything, face everything. The darkness offered oblivion. Ahsoka could feel him teetering on that edge. One wrong word, one moment of weakness, and he could fall completely. But he didn't. Every morning he chose to keep fighting. Every day he resisted the pull. It wasn't redemption, but it was resistance. And for now, that was enough. They talked for hours during those weeks. Ahsoka needed to understand how it had happened, how Palpatine had turned the Chosen One into his weapon, how the man she'd trusted with her life had become capable of murdering children. Anakin told her everything. The process of explaining it was like lancing a wound, painful but necessary. He started with the visions, Padme dying in childbirth. He'd seen it in his dreams, seen her screaming, seen the life leave her eyes, and he'd been powerless to stop it. The visions came every night, each one more vivid than the last. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. The fear consumed him. He'd lost his mother. He couldn't lose Padme too. So when Palpatine offered him a solution, he'd been desperate enough to listen. The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. That's what Palpatine had said. He'd offered Anakin power. The power to save Padme. The power to stop death itself. All Anakin had to do was embrace the darkness. At first, he'd resisted, but Palpatine was patient. He planted seeds of doubt about the Jedi Council, about their trust in Anakin, about their true intentions. He told Anakin that the Jedi were planning a coup, that they would kill Palpatine and take over the Republic. And Anakin, exhausted and afraid, had believed him. When the moment came, when Palpatine revealed himself as a Sith Lord, Anakin had made his choice. He'd chosen power over principle, chosen fear over faith. And in that moment, everything he'd built came crashing down. But you had to know it was wrong, Ahsoka said. You're not naive, Anakin. You knew what you were doing. Yes. Anakin's voice was quiet. I knew, and I did it anyway. I told myself it was for Padme, that I was saving her. But the truth is simpler and worse. I was afraid of loss, afraid of pain, afraid of being powerless. And Palpatine gave me a way to channel that fear into something I could control. The dark side doesn't make you strong. It makes you feel strong. It takes all that fear and anger and turns it into power. And for a moment, you feel invincible. But it's a lie. The power comes at a cost. And by the time I realized what I'd given up, it was too late. The things I'd done couldn't be undone. What about the younglings? Ahsoka asked. Her voice was harder now. How did you justify that? I didn't. Anakin's face was anguished. There was no justification. Palpatine sent me to the temple to eliminate the Jedi. He said they were traitors, that they'd tried to assassinate him. I was so deep in the darkness by then that I believed him. Or maybe I just wanted to believe him. When I walked into that temple, the darkness was so loud in my head. It drowned out everything else. Every doubt, every hesitation. The younglings were just targets. Obstacles between me and Palpatine's approval. I didn't see them as children. I saw them as threats to the new order I was trying to build. It wasn't until Padme confronted me. That's when it hit me, what I'd actually done. And by then, it was too late. How did Padme die? If you tried to kill her, but she survived long enough to confront you. Anakin's expression crumbled. She didn't survive. Not really. When Obi-Wan brought me to Mustafar, Padme followed. She tried to convince me to come back with her, to leave everything behind. But I saw Obi-Wan on her ship, saw him emerge from the shadows, and I thought she'd betrayed me, brought him there to kill me. So I used the Force. Choked her. She collapsed. I didn't mean to kill her, just to stop her. But the darkness makes everything worse. Makes you strike harder than you intend. When the medical droids examined her later, they said her windpipe was crushed. That there was no physical reason she should die. But she lost the will to live. The trauma, the betrayal, the heartbreak, it killed her. And I'm the one who caused it. Ahsoka sat in silence, processing everything. The magnitude of what had happened, the manipulation, the fear, the terrible choices made in moments of weakness. None of it excused what Anakin had done, but it explained it, made it comprehensible in a way she needed. Finally, she spoke. Palpatine did this. He orchestrated all of it, the visions, the fear, the manipulation. He used your love for Padme against you, yes, but I let him. That's the part I can't escape. He showed me the path, but I walked it willingly. I made those choices, killed those children, attacked my wife, tried to kill Obi-Wan. That's on me, no one else. And the question moving forward is what happens now? What you do with the weight of those choices. We fight Palpatine, Anakin said. His voice was stronger now, more certain. He's the real evil here, the puppet master behind everything, the Clone Wars, the fall of the Jedi, the rise of the Empire. It's all him. If I can stop him, if I can tear down what he's built, maybe that counts for something. It won't bring back the people I killed, but it might save the people he'll kill next. Ahsoka nodded. Then that's what we do. But understand something. This isn't going to be easy. The entire galaxy thinks you're dead. Or worse, they think you're the Emperor's enforcer. If anyone discovers you're alive, they'll come for you. Jedi, rebels, even the people you're trying to save. You're the most hated man in the galaxy right now. Good, Anakin said. I deserve their hate. But I won't let it stop me from doing what's right. Their training began in earnest after that conversation. Anakin needed to relearn how to fight with his new body. The cybernetic limbs responded differently than organic ones. They were stronger, faster, but they lacked the subtle feedback of flesh and bone. He had to relearn balance, relearn his lightsaber forms, adjust to the weight distribution. Ahsoka worked with him every day. They sparred in the facility's training room. At first, Anakin was clumsy. His strikes were too hard or too soft, his footwork uncertain. But muscle memory returned quickly. Within a week, he was moving with something approaching his old skill. Within 2 weeks, he was better than before. The cybernetic limbs gave him advantages his organic body never had. But the physical training was only part of it. The harder part was learning to control the darkness. It was always there, always calling to him. During their sparring sessions, Ahsoka would see his eyes flicker yellow, feel the rage building. She'd stop the session immediately, make him meditate, center himself, pull back from the edge. It happened multiple times a day at first, but gradually, Anakin learned to recognize the warning signs, learned to resist the pull. It wasn't redemption, it wasn't even recovery, but it was progress. And progress was all they had. Ahsoka also taught him meditation techniques she'd learned since leaving the Jedi Order. Ways to find balance between light and dark. The Jedi preached suppressing emotion, denying the darkness completely. But that approach had failed Anakin. It had made him vulnerable to manipulation. So Ahsoka taught him something different. Acknowledge the darkness, feel the anger, the fear, the pain, but don't let it control you. Use it, channel it, but never surrender to it. It was a dangerous philosophy, walking the line between light and dark. But for someone like Anakin, someone who'd already fallen once, it might be the only path forward. He couldn't go back to being a pure Jedi. That door was closed, but he didn't have to be a Sith either. He could be something else, something in between. Gray. During one meditation session, Anakin opened his eyes and looked at Ahsoka. I keep having this thought, this question. What if the Jedi were wrong? What if the Sith were wrong? What if both sides are too extreme? The Jedi deny all emotion. The Sith embrace only the worst emotions. But what if the answer is balance? Real balance. Not suppression, not indulgence, but acceptance and control. That's heresy to both sides, Ahsoka said. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the old ways need to die. Both Jedi and Sith. Maybe what the galaxy needs is something new. I can't be a Jedi, Anakin said. I killed too many of them, betrayed everything they stood for. And I won't be a Sith, won't serve Palpatine or embrace the darkness completely. So what am I? You're Anakin Skywalker, Ahsoka said firmly. Not a Jedi, not a Sith, just a man trying to do better. And maybe that's enough. Their philosophical discussions were interrupted by alarms. The facility's sensors had detected ships entering Akiva's orbit. Multiple contacts, Imperial signatures, Inquisitors. Ahsoka's blood ran cold. How did they find us? Anakin's face darkened. The dark side. They must have sensed me. I'm like a beacon in the Force right now. How many ships? Neru's voice came over the intercom. 4 ships, approximately 20 Inquisitors, plus support troops. You need to evacuate. Now. Ahsoka and Anakin raced through the facility. They needed to reach her ship, needed to get off-world before the Inquisitors landed. But they were already too late. Warning sirens blared as the first Inquisitor ship touched down at the facility's main entrance. Ahsoka watched from a window as dark-robed figures disembarked. Red lightsabers ignited in the daylight. She recognized their training immediately. Former Jedi, corrupted and twisted by the dark side, trained specifically to hunt other Force sensitives. They moved through the facility's entrance, cutting down anyone who tried to stop them. Neru's security droids engaged, but were destroyed within seconds. The medical staff tried to evacuate, but many were caught in the initial assault. Ahsoka felt rage building inside her. These people were innocent. They'd done nothing except help save a life, and now they were being slaughtered. She ignited her white lightsabers. Stay here. I'll hold them off while you escape. Anakin grabbed her arm. His grip was firm, enhanced by his cybernetic strength. No, we fight together. You're not ready. Your body is still healing. Then I guess I'll have to be fast. He ignited his lightsaber. The blade that emerged was no longer pure blue. It had shifted, purple, not red, not blue, something in between. The Kyber crystal had changed with him, reflecting his journey, his balance between light and dark. Ahsoka stared at the blade for a moment, then nodded. Together. They moved to intercept the Inquisitors in the facility's main corridor. 8 Inquisitors advanced. Their lightsabers spun in that distinctive double-bladed style. The spinning created a continuous circle of red light. Intimidating, defensive, but also predictable if you knew how to counter it. Ahsoka recognized the leader, a Pawan male, tall and gaunt. She'd seen him before at the Jedi Temple. He'd been a temple guard. Now he served the Empire. His voice was cold, mechanical, filtered through a mask. Ahsoka Tano, former Padawan of Anakin Skywalker, and the Emperor's lost apprentice himself, Lord Vader. Surrender, and your deaths will be swift. We're not surrendering, Ahsoka said. Her lightsabers hummed. And we're not dying today. Then you've chosen suffering. The Inquisitors attacked as one. Their spinning blades created a whirlwind of red light, the corridor filled with the sound of clashing energy. Ahsoka met them head-on. Her white sabers flashed in precise arcs. She ducked under one spinning blade, parried another with her right saber, used her left to deflect a third. Her movements were fluid, graceful, pure Jarkai technique. But 8 against 1 was overwhelming. She blocked a strike aimed at her head, spun to avoid one coming for her legs, but a third got through, grazed her shoulder. She hissed in pain but didn't slow down. Keep moving. That was the key against multiple opponents. Never stay still. Never let them surround you. She leapt, flipped over 2 Inquisitors, landed behind them and struck. One fell. His back split open by her blade. But the others adapted, closed ranks, pressed their advantage. Anakin joined the battle. His style was completely different. Where Ahsoka was graceful, he was brutal. Where she danced, he hammered. His purple lightsaber came down in an overhead strike that one Inquisitor barely blocked. The force behind it drove the man to his knees. Anakin didn't give him time to recover. His cybernetic leg came up in a devastating kick. Servos whined. The Inquisitor's mask crunched. He flew backward and hit the wall with bone-breaking force. Anakin moved to the next target. His strikes were overwhelming, powerful, each one fueled by controlled darkness. He was using the dark side, but not letting it control him. Using his anger, his guilt, his pain, but channeling it through discipline, through technique. It was terrifying to watch, and brutally effective. Another Inquisitor fell. Anakin's blade carved through his defenses and cut deep. The man screamed and collapsed. Anakin moved to the next, but the Inquisitor leader called for reinforcements. More dark-robed figures poured into the corridor from outside. The number doubled, then tripled. Ahsoka found herself completely surrounded. She deflected strikes from 4 directions at once. Her arms burned with the effort. Her muscles screamed. She was fast, but not fast enough. A blade grazed her thigh. Another nicked her arm. She was taking too many hits, too much damage. If this kept up, she'd fall within minutes. Then Anakin reached out with the Force. The entire corridor exploded with power. Every Inquisitor in range was thrown back, slammed against walls with devastating force. The telekinetic wave was so powerful it cracked the facility's walls, dented metal, shattered transparent steel windows. When the dust settled, half the Inquisitors were unconscious. 3 were dead, crushed against walls by the sheer force of the impact. The rest scrambled to regroup, to reform their lines. But the confidence was gone. They'd expected easy prey. Instead, they'd found something far more dangerous. Ahsoka stared at Anakin. His eyes were fully yellow now, Sith eyes. The darkness had consumed him in that moment of rage, that moment of desperate protection. He looked at his hands, saw what he'd done. Horror crossed his face. The yellow faded, blue returned, but the guilt was immediate, overwhelming. "Snips, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I felt you in danger, and don't." Ahsoka cut him off. "We'll deal with it later. Right now, we need to go." The Inquisitors were recovering. More were coming from outside. They needed to reach the ship, now. They ran through the facility. Anakin grabbed Ahsoka's arm and used his cybernetic strength to pull her along faster. They burst out of a side entrance, just as the Inquisitors rounded the corridor behind them. Laser fire chased them. Red lightsaber throws spun through the air. Ahsoka deflected one. Anakin caught another with the Force and redirected it back at their pursuers. It struck one Inquisitor in the chest. He fell without a sound. They reached Ahsoka's ship and raced up the ramp. The engines were already warming. Niru had activated them remotely. Bless that Kaminoan. Ahsoka threw herself into the pilot's seat. Anakin took the co-pilot position. His hands moved across the controls with practiced ease, routing power, activating shields, charging weapons. The ship lifted off just as Inquisitors emerged from the facility. Their lightsabers struck the hull, but the shields held. Ahsoka angled upward, pushed the engines to maximum. They climbed through Akiva's atmosphere with dozens of TIE fighters in pursuit. The familiar green laser fire filled the space around them. Ahsoka wove through the attacks, rolled, dove, spun. Anakin manned the guns. His targeting was perfect. Every shot found its mark. TIE fighters exploded in sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4. But there were too many. They were being overwhelmed. One of the engines took a hit. Warning alarms screamed. They were losing altitude, about to crash back to the surface. Anakin made a decision. He reached out with the Force. Not in anger this time, but in desperation, in need. He grabbed 3 TIE fighters, physically grabbed them with telekinesis, and threw them at the others. The resulting collision created a massive fireball. Debris rained down. The pressure wave from the explosion actually helped, pushed their damaged ship higher, gave them the momentum they needed. Ahsoka pulled up, angled towards space, towards safety. The Navy computer calculated jump coordinates. Anakin monitored their damaged engine. It was failing. Wouldn't last more than a few minutes. They had one shot at this. The coordinates locked. Imperial capital ships were moving to cut them off, but Ahsoka was faster. She pulled the hyperspace lever. The stars stretched, and Akiva disappeared behind them. In hyperspace, the immediate danger passed, but the consequences remained. Ahsoka set the autopilot and turned to Anakin. His head was in his hands. His shoulders shook. When he looked up, his eyes were haunted. I lost control. Back there, in the corridor, I felt you in danger, and The darkness took over. You pulled back. That's what matters. But for how long? What if next time I can't? What if I hurt you? What if I become him again? Then I'll stop you, Ahsoka said firmly. That's why we're doing this together. I'm not just here to help you. I'm here to stop you if you fall. And you'd do the same for me. Would I? Anakin's voice was hollow. I don't trust myself, Ahsoka. Every time I use the Force, I feel it pulling at me. The darkness. It would be so easy to give in, to let it consume me completely. But you don't. Every time you resist, every time you choose to fight it. That's not weakness, that's strength. They sat in silence for a moment. The blue swirl of hyperspace filled the cockpit windows. Finally, Anakin spoke. Where do we go now? Akiva's compromised. Palpatine knows I'm alive. He'll be hunting me. We go where he can't follow. Ahsoka pulled up a star chart. The unknown regions. There are worlds out there that don't appear on any Imperial maps. Places the Empire hasn't reached yet. We find one. Make it our base. And we start fighting back. Fighting back how? We're 2 people against an empire. 2 people with skills most of the galaxy doesn't have. We can make a difference. Sabotage, rescue missions, protecting people the Empire would hurt. It won't be enough to topple Palpatine. Not yet. But it's a start. Anakin studied the star chart. His expression was grim but determined. Then let's start. They became ghosts. Shadows moving through the outer rim. Never staying in one place long enough to be found. Never making enough noise to draw Imperial attention. But always working. Always fighting. On Ryloth, they intercepted an Imperial supply convoy heading to an occupation force. They disabled the escorts, stole the supplies, and delivered them to Cham Syndulla's resistance movement. The Twi'lek freedom fighter stared at them with suspicion. Who are you? Friends, Ahsoka said. That's all you need to know. On Lothal, they infiltrated an Imperial labor camp. Hundreds of prisoners were being worked to death, building TIE fighter components. Ahsoka created a distraction, set off explosives at the camp's power generator. Anakin moved through the chaos. His lightsaber cut through stormtrooper armor. His force powers threw entire squads aside. Within 20 minutes, every prisoner was free. The camp was destroyed, and Ahsoka and Anakin were gone before Imperial reinforcements arrived. On Dantooine, they received intelligence about a group of Force-sensitive children. The Inquisitors were hunting them, planning to either corrupt them or kill them. Ahsoka and Anakin arrived first. They found 6 children hiding in an old temple, terrified, alone. Ahsoka knelt beside them, spoke softly, promised them safety. Anakin stood guard. When the Inquisitors arrived, he met them at the temple entrance. 4 Inquisitors against 1 opponent. They thought it would be easy. They were wrong. Anakin's purple lightsaber moved in a blur. He didn't wait for them to attack. He struck first, hard, fast, brutal. His opening move took 1 Inquisitor's arm. The second strike cut another one down. The remaining 2 backed away, fear in their eyes. "Who are you?" one demanded. "I'm the monster that hunts monsters," Anakin said. His voice was cold. "And you're in my way." The fight was brief, savage. When it ended, all 4 Inquisitors were dead. Anakin returned to the temple. His lightsaber was still ignited, still stained with blood. The children stared at him with wide eyes, some in fear, some in awe. He deactivated the weapon, knelt beside them. "I'm sorry you had to see that, but you're safe now, I promise." Ahsoka found them homes, placed them with families who would protect them, keep them hidden from the Empire. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than the alternative. Each mission was dangerous. Each one risked exposure. But slowly, word began to spread through the underworld. 2 Force users fighting the Empire. 1 with white blades, 1 with a purple blade that seemed to shift between light and dark. Some called them Jedi. Others said they were something else. Ghosts, specters, avengers. The stories grew with each telling. Some said they could walk through walls. Others claimed they could kill with a thought. The truth was less dramatic, but more important. They were making a difference, saving lives, giving hope to people who had none. And that was enough. For now. Their reputation reached Bail Organa. The senator had been working in secret to organize resistance against the Empire, building networks, gathering allies. He'd heard the stories about 2 Force users, wondered if they might be allies or threats. He sent a coded message requesting a meeting. Ahsoka was hesitant. Bringing Anakin into contact with rebellion leaders was risky, but they needed allies, needed resources. They agreed to meet on an abandoned station near Alderaan. The station had once been a Republic outpost. Now it drifted in space, forgotten, perfect for a secret meeting. Bail arrived with Mon Mothma and 3 other senators, all of them working to resist the Empire, all of them taking enormous risks just by being here. When Anakin entered the meeting room, the reaction was immediate. Mon Mothma's hand went to a concealed blaster. One of the other senators actually drew his weapon. Bail stepped between them and Anakin. "Wait, he's with Ahsoka." Mon Mothma's voice was ice. "That's Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader. The Emperor's attack dog. He led the assault on the Jedi Temple. He slaughtered the younglings. Why in the galaxy would you bring him here?" "Yes," Ahsoka said calmly. "And I saved him from Mustafar. He's not Vader anymore. He's here to help." "Help?" Mon Mothma's face was pale with rage. He murdered children. He enabled the Empire's rise. He betrayed everything the Jedi stood for. And you want us to trust him? I'm not asking you to trust him. Ahsoka met her gaze steadily. I'm asking you to use him. He has skills you need, knowledge of Imperial tactics, understanding of Palpatine's strategies, and he's willing to fight, willing to die if necessary, to stop the Empire. One of the senators spoke up. His voice shook with anger. My brother was at the Jedi Temple. He was 16 years old. And this monster cut him down. Why shouldn't I kill you right now? Because I deserve it. Anakin spoke for the first time. His voice was quiet but steady. Your brother's name was Jax. I remember him. He tried to protect the younger students, formed them into a defensive line near the meditation chambers. And I killed him. Killed all of them. I remember every face, every name, every life I took. If you want to shoot me, I won't stop you. The galaxy would be better off without me. The senator's hand trembled. His finger tightened on the trigger. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Bail spoke. Put the gun down. We didn't come here to execute anyone. We came to assess whether they can help us. So let's do that. The senator lowered his weapon slowly, but the hate in his eyes didn't diminish. Bail turned to Anakin. Is this true? Are you really here to fight the Empire? I am. And why should we believe you? You served Palpatine, murdered for him. Why would you turn against him now? Because I was manipulated, used. Palpatine preyed on my fears and turned me into a weapon, and I let him. That's on me. But I'm done being his tool. Done being anyone's tool. I'm here because Ahsoka believes I can still do good, and I trust her judgment more than my own. So I'm asking for a chance. One chance, to prove I can help. If I betray you, Ahsoka has permission to end me, and I won't resist. Mon Mothma looked at Ahsoka. And you vouch for him, with my life. If he betrays us, I'll be the one to stop him. The room fell silent. The tension was suffocating. Finally, Bail sighed. Very well. But understand this, Skywalker. One wrong move and you're done. We won't hesitate. We won't give you a second chance. You'll get one opportunity to prove yourself. Don't waste it. I won't. Over the following months, Anakin proved his worth. His tactical genius helped the early rebellion win battles they had no right to win. On Onderon, they faced an Imperial garrison that outnumbered them 5-1. The rebellion leaders wanted to withdraw, wait for reinforcements. But Anakin saw an opportunity. The garrison's commander was arrogant, overconfident. Anakin designed a plan that exploited that weakness. They sent a small team to create a diversion at the garrison's north gate. The commander, predictable as Anakin said he would be, committed most of his forces to crush the diversionary attack. While the Imperials were focused north, Anakin led the real assault from the south. They breached the walls, infiltrated the command center, and captured the garrison commander before he realized what was happening. With their leader held hostage, the Imperial forces surrendered. The battle was won with minimal casualties. On Jabiim, the rebellion needed to destroy an Imperial Star Destroyer in orbit. But they had no capital ships, no heavy weapons, just a handful of fighters and a lot of courage. The rebellion leaders thought it was impossible. Anakin showed them otherwise. He analyzed the Star Destroyer's patrol patterns, identified when it would be most vulnerable. During a crew shift change, when half the staff was rotating off duty, he coordinated a fleet action using every available ship, freighters, transports, even civilian vessels equipped with improvised weapons. The attack came from multiple vectors simultaneously. The Star Destroyer's defenses couldn't track everything at once. While they focused on the obvious threats, Anakin led a small team of fighters directly at the ship's bridge. They flew so close to the hull that the Star Destroyer's own guns couldn't target them without hitting their own ship. At point-blank range, they fired everything they had at the bridge: proton torpedoes, laser cannons, concussion missiles. The bridge shattered. Explosive decompression killed everyone inside. Without command structure, the Star Destroyer drifted, powerless. The rebellion forces finished it off. The victory sent shockwaves through Imperial command. A Star Destroyer destroyed by rebel forces? It wasn't supposed to be possible. But Anakin had made it possible. On Geonosis, the Empire was building a weapons factory, designing a new generation of battle droids. The rebellion needed it destroyed, but the facility was heavily fortified. Dozens of stormtrooper squads, automated defenses, artillery emplacements. A direct assault would be suicide. Anakin led a strike team instead. Small, mobile, precise. They infiltrated through the facility's waste system, moved through maintenance tunnels that didn't appear on any official maps, avoided patrols by using force senses to predict their movements. When they reached the factory's core, Anakin didn't plant explosives. Instead, he sabotaged the manufacturing process itself, reprogrammed the assembly lines to create defective products, droids that would malfunction in the field, weapons that would explode when fired. The Empire wouldn't discover the sabotage until their new droid army was already deployed. And by then, it would be too late. Each victory was small, incremental, but together they added up. The rebellion grew stronger. More systems joined, more soldiers enlisted, and Anakin became known as the Ghost of Mustafar, a figure shrouded in mystery and fear. Some believed he was a vengeful spirit returned from the dead. Others thought he was a rogue Jedi seeking redemption. Few knew the truth, that he was the chosen one, broken and trying to put himself back together, one mission at a time. But the Empire noticed. Palpatine's forces intensified their search. The Inquisitorius doubled their efforts, and the Emperor himself reached out through the dark side, trying to find his lost apprentice. Anakin felt it, the pull, the constant pressure, like hooks in his mind, trying to drag him back. Palpatine's voice whispered in his thoughts, "You cannot escape me, my apprentice. You will always be Vader. Darkness is your nature. Return to me, and I will forgive your weakness." The voice was there every moment, during missions, during meditation, during sleep. It never stopped, never gave him peace. But Ahsoka was always there. When the darkness grew too strong, when Palpatine's pull threatened to overwhelm him, she anchored him. They meditated together, trained together, fought together. Their bond, once that of master and apprentice, had evolved into something deeper. Partners, equals. Two broken people trying to heal each other. One day during meditation, Anakin opened his eyes. Ahsoka sat across from him. Her expression was peaceful, centered. "How do you do it?" he asked. "How do you stay so balanced?" "I'm not balanced." She opened her eyes and smiled slightly. "I just know how to fake it." "Seriously, you left the Jedi Order, walked away from everything you knew, but you didn't fall to the dark side. How?" "Because I had you. You taught me to think for myself, to question authority, to trust my instincts. When the Jedi Council tried to manipulate me, I remembered those lessons, walked away before they could corrupt what I believed in. I didn't fall because you gave me the strength not to." Anakin shook his head. "I failed you. I became everything you stood against." "You made mistakes," Ahsoka said firmly. "Terrible ones. But you also taught me to be strong, to fight for what I believe in. That's the man I remember. That's the man I'm trying to help come back." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent transmission. Bail Organa's voice crackled through the comm. "Ahsoka, Anakin, we have a problem. Palpatine knows where you are, and he's coming." The transmission ended. Ahsoka and Anakin looked at each other. This was it, the confrontation they'd been preparing for. "We could run," Ahsoka said. "Find another hiding place." "No." Anakin's jaw was set. "I'm done running. Palpatine will keep hunting us, keep killing innocents to draw us out. At least this way, we choose the battlefield. We choose when to fight. You know we might die." "Yes, but if we don't try, he wins. And I'm done letting him win." Ahsoka wanted to argue, wanted to point out that they weren't ready, that Palpatine was the most powerful Sith in history, that facing him now was suicide. But she saw the determination in Anakin's eyes. This wasn't recklessness, it was acceptance. He knew that eventually he'd have to face his former master. Better to do it on his terms. "Fine, but we don't go alone. We bring backup. We bring the rebellion." They sent word to every rebellion contact they had, to Bail Organa, to Mon Mothma, to the resistance cells on a dozen worlds. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of ships pledged to join them, hundreds of soldiers. The rebellion was still small compared to the Empire, but it was growing, and for the first time, it had a real target: Emperor Palpatine himself. They chose the battlefield carefully. Mustafar, the place where Vader was born, the place where Anakin had died. It was fitting, poetic, and it was a world Anakin knew intimately. Every lava river, every platform, every hidden path. If they were going to face Palpatine, it would be on ground that gave them every possible advantage. Palpatine's message had specified a time, 3 days. That gave them time to prepare, to set traps, to position forces, to plan for every contingency. But both Ahsoka and Anakin knew the truth. All the preparation in the world might not be enough against Palpatine. The 3 days passed in a blur of activity. Ships arrived at the rendezvous point. Soldiers drilled for the coming battle. Strategists planned attack patterns. And Ahsoka and Anakin trained. They sparred for hours each day, pushing each other, testing each other, making sure they could work together perfectly when the moment came. Their fighting styles had evolved. Ahsoka had learned to incorporate some of Anakin's aggressive power. Anakin had learned to use some of Ahsoka's graceful precision. They moved together like a single organism, attack and defense flowing seamlessly between them. Anyone watching would have seen two masters at the peak of their abilities, working in perfect synchronization. It was beautiful and terrifying. On the 3rd day, they gathered the rebellion fleet, nearly 50 ships, everything from corvettes to frigates to converted freighters with improvised weapons. Against the Imperial fleet, it was nothing. But against Palpatine, it might be enough. Bail Organa spoke to the assembled forces. His voice carried across every comm channel. "We stand today on the edge of history. For too long, we've hidden in shadows, fought in darkness. But today, we step into the light. Today, we face the Emperor himself. Some of you may not survive. Many of you may not. But know this: every life given today is given for freedom, for justice, for a galaxy that refuses to kneel. May the Force be with us all." The fleet jumped to hyperspace. Mustafar waited. They emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Rebellion ships spread across the system in a defensive sphere. And there, already in orbit, was the Imperial fleet. Dozens of Star Destroyers, hundreds of TIE fighters. The Empire had brought overwhelming force. Palpatine wanted to crush this rebellion completely. Send a message that resistance was futile. Ahsoka took a deep breath. She was piloting her personal fighter. Anakin sat in the co-pilot seat. Behind them, the rebellion fleet held position, waiting. "This is it," she said quietly. "Last chance to back out." "I'm not backing out." Anakin's voice was steady. "This ends today, one way or another." The Imperial fleet opened fire. Turbo laser blasts filled space with green light. The rebellion fleet scattered, broke formation to avoid the initial volley, and the battle began. Ships clashed across Mustafar's orbit. Laser fire streaked between vessels. Explosions bloomed in the void. Rebel fighters swarmed Imperial cruisers. TIE fighters pursued them. Capital ships traded broadsides at close range. The space battle was chaos incarnate, beautiful and terrible all at once. But Ahsoka and Anakin ignored it. They had one target. Palpatine's personal shuttle was landing on Mustafar's surface. They followed. The volcanic world looked exactly as Ahsoka remembered. Rivers of lava, black rock, sulfuric air. They landed near the same collection platform where Anakin had fallen, where his journey to darkness had reached its terrible conclusion. Palpatine's shuttle was already down. The ramp lowered, and a figure in black robes descended. Emperor Palpatine. His face was hidden beneath his hood, but his presence was overwhelming. The dark side radiated from him like heat from the lava. Every force sensitive in the system could feel it. That ancient, terrible power. Ahsoka ignited her white lightsabers. Anakin ignited his purple blade. They stood side by side, ready. Palpatine stopped a dozen meters away. When he spoke, his voice was like oil, smooth and poisonous. "Ah, my wayward apprentice. How I've missed you." "I'm not your apprentice," Anakin said. "Vader is dead." "Foolish boy." Palpatine's laugh echoed across the volcanic landscape. "Vader was never alive. He was always you. The darkness you tried to deny, the power you tried to suppress. I merely helped you accept your true nature. You manipulated me, used my fear against me." "Of course I did. That is what masters do. They shape their students, mold them, perfect them, and you were my greatest creation, until you threw it all away for sentiment, for weakness." Ahsoka stepped forward. Her lightsabers hummed. "He's not going back to you. You've lost him." Palpatine's laugh grew louder, crueler. "Ah, the little Togruta, so loyal, so naive. Tell me, child, do you really think you can save him? Do you think your presence changes anything? Look at him. Even now the darkness calls. Even now, he fights the urge to kneel before me again. I've already won. Anakin is mine. He always will be." No. Anakin ignited his lightsaber fully. The purple blade cast light across his scarred face. "I belong to no one. Not you. Not the Jedi. I make my own choices now, and I choose to end you." Palpatine's expression darkened. His hood fell back, revealing his twisted face. "Then you choose death." He unleashed force, lightning. The attack was instantaneous, overwhelming. Blue electricity arced across the space between them, more powerful than anything Ahsoka had ever seen. The lightning split. One stream for her, one for Anakin. Ahsoka raised her lightsabers to deflect it. The energy crackled against her blades. The force behind it pushed her back. Her arms shook with the effort of holding it off. Beside her, Anakin met the lightning with his own. Dark energy clashed with dark energy. Purple lightning versus blue. The resulting explosion threw them all back, scarred the volcanic rock beneath them. When the smoke cleared, all three were still standing. But Ahsoka's arms ached. Her lightsabers felt heavy. And that was just the opening move. Palpatine smiled. "Good. Very good. You've learned some new tricks, my apprentice. But you're still no match for me. Prove it." Anakin charged. His purple lightsaber came down in a devastating overhead strike. Palpatine's own red blade ignited with a snap hiss. He caught Anakin's strike with perfect timing, their weapons locked. Energy crackled where the blades met. Anakin pushed with all his cybernetic enhanced strength, but Palpatine held firm. His power wasn't physical. It was the Force itself, amplifying his movements, making him stronger than any normal being could be. Ahsoka joined the attack. Her white sabers came in from the side. One aimed high, one aimed low. Palpatine spun between the strikes. His red blade deflected both. Then he counterattacked. His lightsaber moved with impossible speed, a blur of red light that forced both of them onto the defensive. Ahsoka blocked, parried, spun away from a strike that would have taken her head. Anakin caught a strike on his blade, used his superior strength to shove it aside. But Palpatine was already moving, already 3 steps ahead. He feinted at Anakin, drew him into overextending, then struck at Ahsoka. She barely got her saber up in time. The force behind Palpatine's blow knocked her back. She stumbled, nearly fell. Palpatine pressed his advantage. His blade came at her in a rapid series of thrusts, each one precise, each one deadly. Ahsoka defended desperately, but she was on the retreat, being driven back toward the lava river. One wrong step, and she'd fall. Anakin roared. The Force exploded from him, a wave of telekinetic energy that knocked Palpatine back. The Emperor stumbled, surprised. That moment of surprise cost him. Anakin charged in. His lightsaber struck again and again, each blow filled with power, with rage, with controlled darkness. Palpatine was forced to defend. His red blade moved in tight circles, blocking, deflecting. But Anakin was relentless. Each strike drove Palpatine back. Each attack came closer to landing. Then Palpatine smiled. Yes, this is the power I gave you. This is Vader. Do you feel it? The darkness flowing through you. The rage that makes you strong. And you think you can control it. Foolish boy. The darkness always wins in the end. Never. Anakin's strikes came faster, harder. The dark side was flowing through him, making him powerful. But he wasn't surrendering to it, wasn't letting it control him. He was using it, channeling it through discipline, through technique. It was the balance Ahsoka had taught him. Feel the darkness, use it, but never surrender to it. Palpatine's expression shifted. This wasn't what he'd expected. Wasn't how things were supposed to go. His apprentice was supposed to either fall back to him or be destroyed. Not this, not balance, not control. The Emperor unleashed his full power. Lightning poured from his hands. Not a focused attack this time, a storm. Electricity arced in every direction, struck the ground, vaporized rock, set the air itself on fire. Anakin tried to absorb it, tried to deflect it, but it was too much. The lightning tore through his defenses, struck his cybernetic limbs. The servos sparked, short-circuited. His legs gave out. He collapsed. The lightning continued, unrelenting. His body convulsed. Smoke rose from his burned flesh. Ahsoka screamed his name. She charged at Palpatine, lightsabers flashing. The Emperor turned his attention to her. The lightning shifted, focused. She got her blades up just in time. The electricity crackled against them, but the force behind it was overwhelming. It drove her to her knees. Her muscles locked. The pain was indescribable, like every nerve in her body was on fire. Palpatine advanced slowly, savoring their suffering. This is what happens when you defy me. This is what happens when you try to walk away from destiny. You are nothing, both of you, insects before the storm, and I am the storm. He raised his hands to deliver the killing blow. Then Anakin stood. His legs barely functioned. Sparks flew from the damaged servos, but he stood anyway, his eyes locked onto Palpatine. And he reached out with the Force, not in anger, not in rage, but in desperation, in need, in love. He grabbed Palpatine's lightning, physically grabbed it with the Force, and pulled it away from Ahsoka, redirected it back at the Emperor. Palpatine's eyes widened. He raised his lightsaber to deflect the attack. But Anakin wasn't just redirecting lightning. He was channeling both sides of the Force, light and dark, Jedi and Sith. The combined power was unlike anything Palpatine had ever encountered. The lightning struck his blade. The saber shattered, energy backlashed, struck Palpatine himself. He screamed. His robes caught fire. His face burned. He was thrown back, slammed into the volcanic rock. For the first time in decades, Emperor Palpatine looked vulnerable. Ahsoka struggled to her feet. Her body ached. Her muscles refused to obey. But she forced herself up, forced herself forward. She and Anakin stood together, their lightsabers ready. Palpatine rose slowly. His robes were singed. His face was burned worse than before, but his eyes still blazed with dark power, still promised terrible vengeance. "You think you've won?" His voice was a hiss. "You think this changes anything? I am immortal. I am eternal. I have cheated death itself. You cannot kill me." "Maybe not," Anakin said. His voice was steady despite the pain. "But we can hurt you, and we can make sure you never hurt anyone again." They attacked together. Ahsoka from the left, Anakin from the right. Their movements were perfectly synchronized. Every strike coordinated, every defense shared. They moved like water, like wind, unstoppable and relentless. Palpatine defended desperately. His mastery of the Force was immense. He threw boulders at them. They dodged. He created barriers of dark energy. They broke through. He tried to get inside their heads, plant fear, plant doubt. But their bond was too strong. They protected each other, anchored each other. For every attack Palpatine launched, they had a counter. For every trick he tried, they had an answer. The duel moved across Mustafar's surface, across platforms suspended over lava, through the ruins of old separatist facilities, along narrow walkways where one wrong step meant death. And through it all, Ahsoka and Anakin pressed their advantage. They were winning, actually winning. Anakin's lightsaber found an opening, struck Palpatine's arm. The Emperor recoiled. His left arm hung useless. Ahsoka followed up. Her blade caught his side. Drew blood. Real blood. Palpatine stumbled, fell to one knee. This was it. The moment they'd been fighting for. Anakin raised his lightsaber for the killing blow. But Palpatine's eyes gleamed. He reached out through the Force, not at them, at the lava itself. The molten rock erupted. Geysers of superheated stone burst from the river. The entire battlefield shook. The platform they stood on began to crack, to collapse, and above them, the space battle shifted. Imperial reinforcements were arriving. Dozens more Star Destroyers, hundreds more fighters. The rebellion fleet was being overwhelmed. Retreat, pull back. The orders came through their comms. But if they retreated, Palpatine would escape, would live to kill again. Anakin looked at Ahsoka. She nodded. They knew what they had to do. Anakin drove his lightsaber toward Palpatine's chest. The Emperor caught it with the Force, held it inches from his heart. "You think you can kill me?" "I have foreseen my death, young Skywalker, and this is not it." He unleashed everything, every ounce of dark power he possessed. The resulting explosion of Force energy threw them all back. The platform collapsed completely. Ahsoka fell, caught herself on a piece of debris, pulled herself up. Anakin landed hard. His already damaged legs gave out completely. and Palpatine. Palpatine was being lifted into the air. His personal shuttle had arrived. A tractor beam pulled him up toward safety, even wounded, even burned. The Emperor was escaping. No. Anakin reached out with the Force, tried to pull the shuttle down, but he was too weak, too damaged. The shuttle climbed away, vanished into the smoke and ash. Ahsoka reached Anakin, grabbed his arm, pulled him toward their ship. Imperial forces were landing, stormtroopers pouring onto the surface. They had seconds, maybe. Ahsoka got Anakin to their fighter, threw him into the co-pilot seat, fired up the engines. They lifted off just as stormtroopers opened fire. Blaster bolts splashed against their shields. They climbed through Mustafar's atmosphere. The space battle was a disaster. The rebellion fleet was in full retreat. Ships were exploding, being torn apart by Imperial fire. But they'd achieved something. They'd hurt Palpatine, proven he could be defeated, and that was worth the cost. Ahsoka jumped to hyperspace, left Mustafar behind, left the Empire behind. They'd survived, barely. In hyperspace, Anakin slumped in his seat. His cybernetic legs were completely destroyed, would need to be replaced. His body was covered in new burns from the lightning, but he was alive. "Did we do the right thing?" he asked quietly. "Letting him live?" "We didn't have a choice," Ahsoka said. "But yes, we proved something today. Proved he can be defeated. That's worth more than his death. Because now everyone knows. The Emperor can bleed." The years that followed were difficult. The rebellion had suffered heavy losses at Mustafar, but it had also gained something more important: hope. Word spread through the underworld. 2 Force users had faced the Emperor and lived, had actually wounded him. It inspired others to join the fight. Ahsoka and Anakin continued their work, but they operated differently now, more carefully, more strategically. They couldn't face the full might of the Empire head-on, but they could undermine it, sabotage it, one mission at a time. On Kessel, they freed 1,000 slaves from the spice mines. On Corellia, they destroyed an Imperial shipyard. On Mandalore, they helped Bo-Katan Kryze reclaim her throne from Imperial occupation. Each victory was small, but they added up. And slowly, the rebellion grew from a scattered resistance into a real threat. During this time, Anakin learned the truth. Ahsoka had been investigating, digging into Imperial records, trying to find out what happened to Padme. The answer, when it came, nearly destroyed him. Padme had given birth before she died. Twins, a boy and a girl, Luke and Leia, his children, alive. Ahsoka found him in their ship's cargo bay. He was sitting on the floor, his head in his hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "I have children." His voice was broken. 2 children. "And they don't even know I exist." "They're safe," Ahsoka said gently. "That's what matters. Luke is on Tatooine with your stepbrother. Leia is on Alderaan with Bail and his wife. They're being protected, loved, raised away from the Empire. I want to see them. I have to see them." "No." The word was firm. "You can't. They don't know who you are, don't know what you did. And they can't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But they're my children. And you're Darth Vader. You're the monster who helped kill their mother. If they knew the truth, it would destroy them. So what do I do?" Ahsoka knelt beside him, took his hand. "You protect them from afar. You make sure they grow up safe, happy, loved. And you never let them know who their father really is." The words were cruel, but true. Anakin accepted them because Ahsoka was right. His children deserved better than him, deserved a father who wasn't a monster. So he watched them from a distance. used his rebellion contacts to keep tabs on them, made sure they were safe. Luke grew up on Tatooine, a farm boy dreaming of adventure, strong in the Force though he didn't know it yet, eager, compassionate, so much like his mother. Leia grew up on Alderaan, a princess being groomed for leadership, also strong in the Force, determined, brilliant, with a fire that reminded Anakin of himself at that age. He made sure they were protected. When bounty hunters came for Luke, Anakin dealt with them, quietly, permanently. When Imperial agents investigated Leia's connection to the rebellion, Anakin ensured the evidence disappeared. He was their guardian angel, their silent protector. And they never knew. The years passed. 5, 10, 15. The rebellion continued to grow, continued to fight. Anakin and Ahsoka remained at its heart, not as leaders. They both knew they could never take that role, but as specialists, the ones who handled missions too dangerous for anyone else. Their partnership had become legendary within the rebellion, the ghost of Mustafar and his white-bladed companion. Together, they were unstoppable. But time took its toll. Anakin's cybernetic limbs required constant maintenance. His body, scarred from years of battle, grew weaker. The darkness still called to him every day. But every day he resisted, chose the balance between light and dark, chose to keep fighting. One day, he found Ahsoka standing on the observation deck of their ship. She was staring out at the stars, her expression distant. "You're thinking about them," he said. It wasn't a question. Always. "Do you regret it? Not seeing them grow up?" "Every day," Anakin admitted. "But I made peace with it. They're better off without me. You did the right thing. I know. Doesn't make it hurt less." They stood in silence for a moment. Stars streaked past the viewport. Finally, Ahsoka spoke. "You know they'll find out eventually. The truth about you, about Vader. Luke is asking questions, investigating the past. Leia is even more driven. When they discover who their father was, what will you tell them?" "The truth. That I was a monster. That I fell to the darkness. That I spent years trying to crawl back out. And if they hate me for it, I'll understand. They won't hate you. They might not forgive you, but they won't hate you. How do you know? Because you're trying. That has to count for something." The rebellion achieved a major victory. The Death Star plans were stolen. Intelligence that could turn the tide of the war. A weapon capable of destroying planets. Palpatine's ultimate expression of control. Anakin looked at the technical readouts with horror. This was what the Empire had become. A government willing to destroy entire worlds to maintain power. It had to be stopped. He and Ahsoka volunteered to join the assault, but the rebellion leaders refused. "You're too valuable," Bail said. "We can't risk you on a single mission." "This isn't about value," Anakin argued. "This is about stopping a weapon that can destroy billions. And you think 2 people can make the difference? We have to try." In the end, they were allowed to join as part of the support fleet. They watched as rebel pilots made their attack run, watched as the Death Star's defenses tore through their ranks, so many brave people dying. And then, in the chaos, Anakin felt something. A presence in the Force, strong, familiar, impossible. Luke, his son, was there, flying an X-Wing, making the attack run that would determine the galaxy's fate. Anakin wanted to scream, wanted to pull Luke's ship away from the danger, protect his son. But he couldn't. If he interfered, he'd only make things worse. So instead, he reached out gently, through the Force. He couldn't speak to Luke directly, couldn't reveal himself, but he could help. He steadied Luke's hand, calmed his racing heart, guided his instincts. And when Luke fired, The torpedoes flew true, straight into the thermal exhaust port. The Death Star exploded, a son being born and dying in the same instant. The rebellion had won its first major victory. In the aftermath, Anakin watched Luke from a distance. The boy was surrounded by celebrating rebels, smiling, laughing, a hero. Pride swelled in Anakin's chest, pride not for himself, but for his son. Luke had become everything Anakin should have been, everything he'd failed to become. And that was enough. Ahsoka found him later. You helped him. Yes. Does he know? No. And he won't. Not from me. More years passed. The rebellion became the Alliance, then the New Republic. The Empire fell, slowly, painfully, system by system, battle by battle. Anakin and Ahsoka were there for all of it, fighting in the shadows, protecting people who would never know their names, striking at the Empire wherever it was weakest. The war culminated at Endor, a massive fleet action, the Empire's second Death Star, and Emperor Palpatine himself, supposedly on board. Anakin and Ahsoka were assigned to a mission on the other side of the galaxy. Taking out an Imperial communication hub, they completed their mission successfully. But Anakin felt something shift in the Force, felt a presence disappear. Palpatine. The Emperor was dead, killed in the battle above Endor. The weight that had pressed on Anakin for decades suddenly lifted. The voice in his mind, the constant whisper of darkness, went silent. For the first time since Mustafar, Anakin Skywalker was truly free. But freedom didn't mean peace. The galaxy was still broken, still scarred by decades of war. And there was so much work left to do. Anakin and Ahsoka continued to serve the New Republic, but they stayed in the shadows, advisors, operatives, never leaders, never public figures. They'd both walked too far into the darkness for that. The galaxy could never fully accept them. And that was fine. They didn't need acceptance. They just needed purpose. Years later, Ahsoka asked him again, "Do you think you've atoned for what you did?" Anakin considered the question, thought about all the lives they'd saved, all the battles they'd won, all the people they'd protected. "I've saved thousands of lives, stopped dozens of Imperial operations, protected countless innocents from the darkness Palpatine would have inflicted. But I killed younglings, murdered my wife, betrayed everything I stood for. So no, I don't think I've atoned. The scales will never balance. But I'm still trying, and I'll keep trying until the day I die. That's all any of us can do. Keep trying. Be better today than we were yesterday." They stood together, looking out at the galaxy they'd helped save. Two broken people who'd refused to stay broken. Two warriors who'd walked through darkness and found their way back to something resembling light. Not fully, not completely, but enough. Ahsoka turned to him. "You know the kids are going to find out eventually. Luke and Leia. They're investigating, asking questions, digging into the past. When they discover who their father is, will you tell them the truth? Yes, all of it, even the terrible parts. And if they hate me, I'll accept it. I don't think you'll lose them. You never had them. But maybe, just maybe, you'll get a chance to know them. Maybe." In the end, that was all Anakin Skywalker could hope for. Not redemption, not forgiveness, just a chance. A chance to be better, to do better, to protect the people he loved from the monsters in the galaxy, even if the greatest monster had been himself. The years stretched into decades. Anakin grew older. His cybernetic limbs required more frequent maintenance. His body, scarred from decades of combat, weakened, but he kept fighting, kept trying, and slowly, quietly, he made a difference. Not as Darth Vader, not as the Chosen One, but as Anakin Skywalker, a man who fell further than anyone should be able to, and who spent his life climbing back up. One mission, one life saved, one choice to do better, at a time. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.